So in the HPE faculty, we offer four subjects for year 10, 11 and 12. We're in a fortunate position right now in year 9 for our students, in the sense that every single student is currently studying health and physics. And from their experiences this year, particularly this year, they'll be able to make a fairly informed decision regarding the suitability or otherwise of some of the subjects that we offer. So the purpose of this afternoon's presentation is to go through each of these subject offerings in a bit of detail to try and clarify some things for parents as well as students, so that we can assist you in your decision making with your subjects moving forward. As you can see, health is the first subject we'll be discussing. It's a general subject. It can contribute up to 4 QCE points. Physical education is also a general subject. It contributes 4 points towards your QCE. A new subject we've offered this year, which is called the fitness certificate, which is a VET subject, and it can contribute up to 8 points towards your QCE. And finally, sport and recreation, which is an applied subject and it can contribute up to 4 points towards your QCE. So I'll be going through each of these subjects this afternoon, and as I said, if you have any questions in relation to these subjects, which I may not get through today, or I may not get to those questions today, please feel free to email me through those questions and I'll do my best to answer them in the coming days. The first subject I'd like to talk to you about this afternoon is health. So health is a course of study, and health establishes a basis for further education and employment in the fields of health. And with the current situation in the world, I suppose, with the current crisis occurring, one thing we did try to emphasise, or I tried to emphasise to students at my presentation to them 2 weeks ago, was that this was really one industry which the importance of this industry was emphasised with the current climate. So currently, the best advice to you in regards to health, this particular subject is very content heavy. So if your son or daughter, or students, if you're listening, if you have really enjoyed the theoretical component to your HPE subject in year 9, and similarly, if you have got a B or better in year 9 English and also year 9 HPE, this could be a subject for you to consider. If you really enjoy that theory component of junior HPE, as there is a very high reliance on writing and researching, the best way to describe this subject to you would be to say that it's very similar. It's basically a SOS subject within the HPE faculty. So there's a lot of analysis of data. It's a matter of looking at different health theories. It's looking at very common or very prominent health issues within teenagers. So we've designed our content and our units of work around what we see to be pertinent issues for young people, particularly at our school. So things like body image, alcohol, road safety, anxiety. These are some of the topics which we do cover within senior health. It is an intensive academic pathway for students. If your child, or students, if you're listening, if you don't enjoy English, if you don't enjoy writing, researching, I encourage you not to pick this subject. However, like I've said on the side on the right over here, if you do enjoy the theory component of year 9 HPE, if you don't necessarily like sport, but you like the idea of learning about health, and particularly if you're looking for a career in the fastest growing industry in Australia, plus, you know, if you look at a career as a physiotherapist, as an occupational therapist, as a nurse, anything to do in a medical sort of field, then the topics and concepts studied in this unit of work will go a long way towards preparing you for a tertiary pathway in regards to some sort of health oriented career. And crucially, if you're getting an A or a B in English in year 9 English currently, students, this should be a subject that you might like to consider for your year 10, 11 and 12. Second subject offering I'd like to talk to you about is physical education. in my teaching career, I haven't seen a shift as considerable in a subject, particularly in our faculty, as there has been within PE over the last 3 years. Going back to even last year, the students who graduated last year in Year 12 PE, they graduated with a mark that had contributions of prac and theory of about 50%, so 50-50 prac and theory. That has changed significantly with phys ed. The current phys ed program, the new phys ed ATAR subject, heavily reliant on theory. Okay, it does provide a basis for further education and employment in the fields of exercise science, biomechanics, also health professions, psychology, teaching. There's a range of different employment opportunities, and that could be a pathway for you. But one thing that students need to be aware of is that this subject does not, in terms of the practical component, there is minimal reliance on your physical ability. Okay, so if there's a student, and just some points there, as I said, it's predominantly a theory-based subject with less than 20% of the entire mark will be from a student's practical performance. So I can tell you that in Year 12, our IA1, which is our internal assessment instrument number 1, 8% marks from that particular out of 25 is made up of a student's physical performance, and in IA3 it's only 10 out of 30. Add that 10 and 8 together, you get 18, and that 18 is what is contributed towards a student's overall percentage out of 100. So the prerequisites for PE include a B or better in English in Year 9 HPE. Like health, this has a very high reliance on writing and researching, evaluating a student's own performance and recommending. So currently, our Year 9 students in PE are doing a unit on biomechanics. This involves them capturing some footage of their performance in a particular sport, and it might be an overhand throw at or shot at goal in European handball. It might be an overhead serve in volleyball. It might be an AFL drop punt, so kicking an AFL ball. Whatever that skill is, they need to capture that footage, and then they need to compare that footage to effectively a professional athlete and look at biomechanical flaws within their own technique and then provide recommendations to improve it with biomechanical justification behind that. So this unit that the students are currently doing in Year 9 PE provides a really good idea of the kind of work they're doing in senior, in Year 10, 11 and 12 PE. It is an intensive academic pathway, so students need to be aware that there is a lot of work involved in the subject, and it's not a matter of just being, okay, I'm a really good athlete, I can get through being a good athlete, as has probably been the case in the past. So we want you, for this subject, students, if you enjoy your both prac and theory aspects of Year 9 HPE, if your child receives an A or B in Year 9 English and Year 9 HPE, if your child likes learning about movement and recommending strategies to improve, and if your child writes well and enjoys physical activity but are not necessarily great at it. And that is something to really consider here. All right. PE used to be a subject that attracted students who liked and were very good at sport. Under the old system, 50% of a student's mark was made up from their practical performance. Now it's 18%. So we are seeing a shift in the clientele who are attracted to this subject away from athletic students who may not be able to write as well towards students who write quite well, write very well, but who aren't as physically gifted. So it's less about being able to execute skills within a sport and more about being able to explain why they can't execute skills appropriately in a game, and then about recommending strategies to improve. All right, so physical education has undergone a big change over the last 2 or 3 years. This subject is intensive academic work. Less than 20% of the entire mark is practical performance. It's basically theory driven. In terms of time allocation, I would estimate that roughly 2/3, it varies from unit to unit, but sometimes 2/3 of a unit of work will be based in the classroom and a third will be out doing prac. Other units, you might be more 50-50. Other units might be in certain blocks of time during a unit might be 75% prac and 25% theory. But just bear in mind, I don't want students to pick this subject if they think they're doing prac all the time and if they think that they are going to get a good mark simply because they're a state representative in touch football or they play for Brisbane Roar in football. Okay, so just keep that in mind. The third subject that we offer next year for 10, 11 and 12 students is the fitness certificate. This is a brand new subject which we have offered this year for the first time in a number of years. And what this subject does, it is a VET subject. So it's not general like health or PE. It's not applied like sport and recreation. It is a VET-based subject, a vocational subject. This subject combines prac and theory work. It's the theory work is less intensive considerably than the health and also the PE. However, there is an onus on students to work independently to complete modules as part of an online course that we complete through our RTO, which is our our registered training organisation, which we've partnered up with, which is called Binnacle. Okay. So if your child would like a career in the sport and fitness industry, this could be potentially a subject that they would like to select next year. If your child likes being physically active and they enjoy working in groups and organising group training and fitness, if your child has received a C or better in Year 9 HPE, this could be a subject for your child. So this is, as I said, it's run through an RTO, which is Binnacle Training, and there is a course cost for this. So the course cost for a full fee-paying student is $325, and that includes this includes the Certificate 2, in Sport and Recreation, as well as the Certificate 3 in Fitness, plus a Sports First Aid Certificate. Now, this is where there's some confusion amongst the students in Year 10. They're a little bit more clear about it now. You can apply for VETAS funding for this subject. If you utilise VETAS funding, now VETAS funding stands for Vet in Schools funding. If you apply to use that, the course costs drop down to $75. Now that's the cost for the entire course, as is $325 for a full student. That's the entire course for Year 10, 11 and 12. And when they leave at the end of Year 12, they'll have a Certificate 2 in Sport and Recreation. They'll have a Certificate 3 in Fitness, as well as a Sports First Aid Certificate. So a student who graduates in Year 12 with this qualification could apply to any position within a gym or health facility, and they would be very employable because they would have the Certificate 3 in Fitness, plus a Sports First Aid Certificate. Now, a question that I often get asked regards the fee paying and the VETAS funding, the VETAS funding model. Every person in Australia has an opportunity to access VETAS funding for one course of study. What that means is that the government will subsidise your fee for one vocational-based training or certificate course that you're doing. Now, in this case, the full fee-paying student pays $325 for the 3 years of study, and that gives access to all of the resources that Binnacle provides us with. If a student elects to use VETAS funding, that drops down to $75. So the question you might be asking is, why wouldn't a student use VETAS funding if it's a substantial drop of $250? To explain that, I'd like to use an example where this VETAS funded course, the course cost is relatively cheap compared to a lot of other course costs, such as in the building and industry training, construction industry, or the hospitality industry. Sometimes those courses can cost in excess of $1,500 or $2,000. So if you were doing one of those courses, like a building and construction course that might be $2,000, Please don't quote me on these figures, but if you utilise VETAS funding for one of those courses, your course cost might come down to $150 or $200. So therefore, you're actually getting a reduction of maybe over $1,000 up to $1,500. Who knows? So for some families, they might consider, okay, my son or daughter is doing this course, but our preference is to not utilise the VETAS funding because our son or daughter may be looking to do a separate vocational study when they leave school, and that one costs a lot more than the Certificate 3 course that we're doing at Cleveland State High. So therefore, we're going to hold on to that VETAS funding and utilise it later on. Now, a student who might be going on towards a tertiary education, no aspirations of doing any further vocational training, they might think, yep, I'm unlikely to use that VETAS funding ever again. So this is an opportunity for me to utilise it. So therefore, they would apply for it. That would be granted, and they'd pay $75 for this course. This course involves a lot of group work, a lot of student-driven activity. We're currently completing a Certificate 2 in Sport and Recreation in Year 10, and then in Certificate 3, in Year 11 and for fitness, and also the Sports 3 and fitness. What they are doing in the Cert 3 is they will start with exercise prescription for the programs around their own fitness goals, desires, needs. They will then partner up with a colleague from our class and conduct a pre-screening questionnaire and determine what their client wants to achieve through their training. They'll then have an opportunity to train a staff member here at school. Yes, that's right. I'll be seeking volunteers from our teaching staff here at the school for students to take them through a training program that the students will design with my assistance. And then finally, we'll be seeking some people. We do a unit later on where we're designing training programs for some elderly members of the community. So we would look at some expressions of interest from areas around the Cleveland area to get members of the public to come in, and our students get the opportunity to train them. Pretty cool course. It's been very popular this year, and we're looking to grow on that popularity next year by having another big cohort come through. Our fourth and final subject offering is the sport and recreation subject. This here is an applied subject. It has a lot less academic rigor in terms of the theoretical components compared to PE and compared to the fitness certificate and compared to health. It's an applied subject, like I said, and students in this course will have an opportunity to engage with activities such as coaching, officiating, training program design, sports first aid, and outdoor education. There are some double ups between this and the fitness certificate. However, this is an applied subject that's done by the staff at our school. It's not done in conjunction with an RTO from outside of our school environment like Binnacle, like the fitness certificate is. Everything here is done in-house. If your child enjoys the practical component of Year 9 HPE, this subject would be a worthwhile consideration for them. If your child likes participating in sport, and if your child would like a career in the sport and recreation industry, be it as a coach or as a just involved. If you look at the local clubs we've got around here, Redlands football, Redlands touch, Redlands tennis, Redlands gymnastics, all of these clubs, people involved in these clubs would have backgrounds within the sport. They're all sort of clubs that are part of that sport and recreation industry. So therefore, this particular subject would prepare students potentially to go ahead and work or volunteer in those sorts of areas. If your child's prepared to get hot, sweaty and smelly, this is a subject for you. But in bold down the bottom there, we've got, do not encourage your child to choose the subject unless they enjoy being physically active. All right, so we have had a history of students select this subject only because it's got less academic rigor than some of our previous, some of our other offerings that I've mentioned, plus some of the other offerings from other faculties, and that in itself has been an attractive option for students. They then come to the subject and there is a very high reliance on practical work. You are up, you are active, you are getting involved, you are potentially coordinating lunchtime events. You just generally like being physically active. If you don't like picking it, if you don't like being active, this is not a subject that I'd encourage them to pick. That's for sure. Okay. Again, ladies and gents, if you have any questions that you'd like to send through, please feel free to email them through to my email. Mine will be it'll be provided at the end of the unit, at the end of this presentation. Plus, I'm answering them now, so if any come through, I'll answer them as I can as I receive those. Some students occasionally like to do more than one of our subjects. In this slide here summarizes the opportunities for students in regards to can they pick a combination of these subjects. So first of all, in terms of can I pick health and physical education? Of course you can. This is definitely the case, and we've got a number of students currently studying year 10, 11 and 12 who pick both health and physical education. So you can get obviously up to 8 QCE points when it comes to if you study both of those two options. The second option there, can I do health and PE plus sport and rec? Yes, you can. It is slightly unusual because we've got health and PE as our two ATAR subjects, and then sport and recreation as our non-ATAR subject. You can do it. The maximum QCE points over the side there is 12. Can we pick health and physical education and fitness, or health and fitness, or phys ed and fitness? Any of those combinations? Yes, you can. Okay, so we've got two ATAR subjects, that's health, beg your pardon, we've got two general subjects, health and PE, plus we've got a vet subject, which is our fitness certificate. Yes, you can do all three of them. And the maximum QCE points in that case is the 4 for health, the 4 for phys ed, and 8 for fitness. So bear in mind that it's the goal of a student to achieve that 20 QCE points by the time they finish their year 12 studies, and you can actually get a long way down that road, 4/5 of the way, I suppose, down that road by studying health, PE, and fitness as a combination. Can I do fitness and sport and recreation? No. Like I said when I was explaining those subject requirements, there is some doubling up of the content between those two subjects. So it actually represents duplication of learning. So that would get flagged to me and to deputy principals, and you wouldn't be able to do those two subjects together. So you have to do one or the other, which means that you'd either get 4 or 8 QCE points for that subject. The Year 9 HPE teachers currently have actually shown a series of short interviews with our current Year 10 students studying the subjects listed above. So I've tried to tell you guys and girls what our subjects are about. Sometimes it's really good to hear from those students who are currently studying the subject. They will tell you the truth about these subjects. So parents, I encourage you to talk to your students, or your children, about those Year 10 students and what they had to say about these different subjects. My information details are at the bottom of the screen. More than happy to either receive a phone call or to get an email from you at any time to clarify any of the points. It's much better to try and get these sorted out at this stage of the student's educational journey as opposed to next year, or halfway through next year when they have picked a subject but they probably shouldn't have. So please get those requests coming through. Here's some frequently asked questions that I get asked, and these I believe are getting sent home to you pretty soon. So I'll go through some of these pretty quickly before we finish up at 4 p.m. Is there a practical component in health? No, it is totally a theory-based subject. You are in the classroom the whole time. That's our SOSA equivalent. Is PE still 50-50 in terms of prac and theory? No, it's not. Less than 20% of physical education marks are derived from practical or physical performance. Is there any theory component in sport and recreation? Yes, there is. Students will have a theory component that they get marked on, and that contributes about 50% of a student's overall achievement. However, that theory component is less in terms of academic rigor compared to PE and health. Fitness certificate combines sport and recreation as well as certificate 3 in fitness. It's a dual qualification, and there is a cost involved in that subject, and it's dependent on whether or not students access VETAS funding. The cost this year was $325 for students who are full fee paying, and $75 for our VETIS funded students. In terms of points contribution towards the QCE, PE, Rec, and Health all contribute 4 points towards the QCE, whereas the fitness certificate contributes 8. Can I pick both sport and recreation and fitness certificate? No, that represents duplication of learning. And can I pick fitness certificate plus health or PE or both? Yes, you can. No duplication there. We welcome that. And there's a number of students in year 10 who are doing either health and PE, or health and fitness, or PE and fitness, or all three of them. I really like sport and I play at a representative level. Should I pick PE? You should only pick PE if your writing is, if you're currently getting a B in it and you enjoy the theoretical components of junior PE. If not, I encourage you not to pick this subject, because only 20% of that subject, or less than 20%, contributes towards your overall mark. I like sport, but I'm not that skillful. I like writing and have achieved good results in English and science subjects. Should I consider PE or health? Yes, please. You're the ones we want. We want, if students like sport, and they're superstars, brilliant. If you like your writing, you like your researching, you like place for you in PE, and I'd certainly encourage you to consider PE and health for that particular reason. It's less reliant on your practical performance. That just about wraps us up for this afternoon. Parents and students, thank you for your time. My email is on the screen right now, so if you'd like to have anything clarified, if you've watched this live or if you are tuning in to a recording, those details are there, they are accurate, so please send them through. Any questions you've got, I'm happy to certainly help out you with your decision making moving forward. Thank you for your time this afternoon, and I wish you all the best with your subject selections. Thank you.